Welcome back, everybody. And as promised, I actually have Dee Dee Lee here, the property manager extraordinaire from Georgia, in studio today. So Dee Dee, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Pete.
All right. So you are now, we're in 2024, and you are now the treasurer of NARPM on the national board.
Correct.
So you've been given a lot of back. You've given a lot back to NARPM. So tell us kind of your NARPM journey and why do you continue to give back to NARPM?
That's a great question, Pete. I actually, whenever someone says giving back to NARPM, like to me, I'm still receiving, right? So when I first joined NARPM, it was 2012, a little bit too late, in my opinion, because I had already started my business 2 years into it, right?
All right, so you found NARPM kind of late as a PM.
Almost 2 years after I started my business, and I had almost 100 properties by then. So I found NARPM by attending a Robert Locke class. He did like a series on property management, and that class scared the crap out of me because he talked about trust accounting, talked about, fair housing issues, and
wait, I'm not supposed to mix money together?
We're not going to talk about that. But I was sitting in the class thinking, oh, I'm going to go to jail. Like if I don't change my business, if I don't change the way I do my business. And so at the end of the class, Robert said, if you want to continue to be a property manager and do well in this business, you need to join NARPM. And I immediately signed up for NARPM right then and there.
Smart move.
So then I go to my first chapter meeting, and it's the Atlanta chapter, which got the large chapter of the year last year in 2023. And people were so welcoming, right? And there's this lady named Rachel Runyon who I started talking to. She was manning the reception chair, or the table. And I talked to Rachel, and she was like, "Hey, Dee Dee, would you like to be my co-chair for membership?" And keep in mind, this is my very first meeting.
Event. Yeah.
Walked up to her at registration desk, had like a 10-minute conversation. She asked me that, and instinctively I said yes. And I haven't stopped saying yes since. So, and the yeses led me from co-membership chair to secretary of the chapter to president-elect, then president of the Atlanta chapter. Mm-hmm. And after that, in my mind, I was like, I'm done volunteering. I need to, do some other stuff. And then someone asked me, hey, why don't you apply to become a regional vice president, RVP? And I just don't know how to say no, I guess, when it comes to NARPM. So a couple years later, here I am as treasurer, and I have not regretted.
So what has been the impact on your business and on you personally by saying yes and going out of your comfort zone?
I think it has sped up my learning curve in the property management business. And I say that because like you get so much information going to classes and attending conference workshops. But for me, like the real depth of the knowledge comes from talking to people like you, talking to other colleagues that I met through volunteering, because you spend a lot of time together when you volunteer. Mm-hmm. You sit in board meetings. I mean, the board meetings are, you talk about business, but then there's also side conversations before and after. And then you're talking like, hey, I just implemented this new program, right? This service, and here's how I did it. And let me show you on my laptop what it looks like. I mean, you don't get that opportunity otherwise.
Right. And you just build those deeper relationships, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I am sure that you have a bunch of people in your Rolodex that if anything ever happened, you can call, and somebody in your Rolodex has had that issue or challenge that you're facing.
Yeah. And when you're on that kind of a friendship level with somebody, they're not, so they don't hold back a lot on sharing. I mean, I'm sitting in your house right now, right? What a perfect example that is.
Right. Yeah. The friendships become,
Yeah.
They transcend the property management, right?
Absolutely.
As we're recording this, Dee Dee is getting ready to do her second marathon in a couple of days. We're recording this in January of 2024. So good luck on your marathon.
Thank you. You've been a big supporter.
And that's how so there's a subgroup of us that meet at conferences, and we get up early in the morning. I'm sure there's a subgroup that stay late at night, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's a group that's the healthier group. I think some of them are in both groups.
Both groups, yeah.
Shout out to Paul Kinkowski. All right, and so we've bonded over NARPM, and then we've created that friendship through now running, and now we've I was in Georgia last year. Mm-hmm. Spending time with you and Richie, and now you're here, and that's the greatest thing about NARPM to me. It really is the relationships. When you ask people like why join NARPM, first thing they say, they don't say the classes, the conferences, the vendors. They say the relationships, and it truly is amazing. So, we'll shout out if you're not a NARPM member and you listen to this, you need to join NARPM. Yeah. But okay, so. It's an art podcast, and I talk about NARPM, but let's get some meat and potatoes here. All right. So I've seen you speak a few times, and a lot of the stuff that you speak on that you seem to be passionate about is a hiring process and hiring the right people and putting them in the right seats. So before we talk about your process and how you kind of disseminate that, why are you so passionate about that topic?
Well, I learned as my business grew that what makes a business successful is its people. And, the property management industry, I think it's really difficult to find the right people who will stay for a long time. Minimizing churn has been an obsession of mine, right? And I always treated my staff like family. But then you learn through the process, it's not always about cheering for them and celebrating everything and babying your staff, because that doesn't work either.
Yep.
And so trying to find the right balance of how to hire the right talent, and then after you find the talent, how do you properly manage them and keep them
and nurture them.
I mean, it is a science. When you and I talk about process and science all the time. I think hiring and retaining talent is another science.
I was just listening to a podcast, and there was this guy on here, and I forget his name, but he was a billionaire. And the one thing that he said that really resonated with me, because he said a lot of incredible things, because anybody that's worth that kind of money, whenever they speak, you just get the pen and paper out. Mm-hmm. But he was so proud of the staff that he had, and most of his staff was with him for over 17 to 25 years. And he said, I do everything I can to make sure I find the right people, and that I treat them really well, right? And not baby them, but treat them well. And he goes, because when you're, especially if you're starting out, every time somebody leaves, it's almost like starting another business, especially when you're a smaller business. And he goes, look, this lady, Fran's been here for 25 years. She knows her job better than anybody. If she leaves, we literally have to go find somebody and then she takes 25 years of knowledge away with her. Mm-hmm. So if you can find the right people and they stay with you forever, for a long time, because they're super happy where they are, because a lot of entrepreneurs believe that everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. And that is not true. Most people want a paycheck every 2 weeks, guaranteed paycheck, right? They don't want to be you. They don't want to be the guy, and they don't want to make all that money either. They don't want to put the risk. They don't want the reward. They want their paycheck. Exactly. And so people will if people stay, the longer they stay, the less chaotic your business is.
Yeah. And talking about entrepreneurs, if you are an entrepreneur, you want to enjoy the freedom, right, of not being in your business all the time, because entrepreneurs need time to work on the business, to maybe work on other businesses, right? Other ventures. Right.
The business becomes like a shackle in a way.
Exactly. And you can't do that without having the right people in place that you can trust, that know how to do their job without you being there all the time.
All right. So let's talk about how we find those people. right? And we'll talk about stateside, VA side as we kind of go through the process. But so property management right now, the big fad going on is automation, right? Lead Simple. Shout out to Jordan and the team over there. They have a great product, and so right now everybody. What I find with NARPM especially is everybody joins the next fad, right? And so automation is really good, but automation right now we're automating our operational processes. So people are really into their operational processes, right? And kind of getting lost in that is a process for hiring, and people don't have a process. So let's talk about, you know, when you own Skyline, let's talk about your process there, and how that helped you get the right people in the right seats.
Sure. So I learned that before I hired, I had to know myself first, right? It's like I always compare hiring somebody to dating somebody.
Okay.
Right? Like you can go out there and find people to date, but if you don't know what you're looking for, you're just going to keep looking and looking. You'll never find the right person.
True.
So first know yourself as a business, who you are. And what I mean by that is company values. You know, like I went through an exercise, and I did this after going to a NARPM conference, and I heard it was Duke Dotson and Tim Weiner.
Yep.
Gave a great talk on company values, right? What are your core values, your vision, your mission statement? From that workshop, I developed mine. And it's like a list of words that I associate my company with. So for an example, we're hardworking, we embrace change, we embrace technology. These are some of my company values. So once I understood what my values were, then I looked at what positions I
Now,
had.
how did you come up with those? Did you sit in a room by yourself and kind of think what my values are and what I want them to be in a business? Did you have a leadership team at that time? Like, what was the exercise behind that?
Yes. I took the people that I had in my company at the time, and I said, hey, guys, let's put this on a whiteboard. What do you think should be important for our business?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So basically, you just kind of threw a bunch of stuff up, and you said which ones resonate with us as the leadership team, and then we're going to disseminate that down.
And then everybody, after that we brought in, had to be in line with our values.
Let me ask you, because what about the people that were there already? I don't know if this happened, but if you create the core values, did you notice that there was some people that were in your company that didn't embody those core values?
They all helped to put these values.
So you had everybody in the company
at that time. Yes.
Oh, at that time, your leadership team was basically everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they were all they all agreed to it. But you make a good point. We kept those values up on the wall at all times. Anybody that came into our office, whether it's a vendor, whether it's a client, somebody coming in to interview, they could see our values on the wall. And anytime we came across a difficult question, like, does this person belong? Or,
let the values be your guide.
Let's go look at the values and let that be. Yeah. And if it's a question like, should we fire this client? Is this, how do we make this decision? We go back to the values, and it will give us the answer every single time.
Awesome. So knowing yourself is basically knowing your values and your vision and your mission. Yeah. But values is probably the most important when you're looking for people in that, right?
Correct.
The vision basically you're sharing the vision with potential candidates on where you are and where you're going. Yeah. Why is that important?
So to me, I always make sure this is something I do with every person that comes to interview, is I want you to know where this company is going, right? And how we see ourselves years down the road. And
do you do like a 10-year kind of, this is our forward thinking?
This is who we want to be.
Okay.
And it gets them excited. It's like, we're not going to stop working on whatever we're working on until we get to that vision, right? So I think our vision lets the applicant know that we're not just, they're not just here to do one mundane job. Like, there is a bigger goal out there that we're all working towards. And I think that puts some passion in people. Like, a lot of young people nowadays, they're not looking for just a a job like a 9 to 5. They want to feel like they're making a difference.
They want to impact. They want to impact, whether it's impacting the community, impacting, your clients, whatever it is. They want to feel impact.
Yeah. So whatever the vision, right, is that your listeners are working on, make sure it's inspirational. Make sure it's a big. It's like it has to be a big dream, right? It has to be big.
Agreed. It can't be like the vision can't be to make the owners of the company $1 million. Right, that doesn't get anybody super charged up, except for the owner of the company.
Yeah.
Let that be your own personal vision. But the vision of the company could be something like, we're going to be in 6 markets, right? Or we're going to be all over, in your case, Georgia, or we're going to be in the Southeast, right? It could be something as big, or it could just be like we're going to manage 15,000 properties in the Atlanta metro area. It could be that big. It could be anything. But you're right. If you don't share that vision, it doesn't get people excited, and then you don't get the best candidates potentially.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So now I know my vision. I got my mission statement. I got my core values. So now I know myself.
You know yourself.
All right. Now what's the next step?
Okay. Then you have to find out what seats on the bus, right, it is vacant. Right. What seats do you need?
Okay.
So
how do I go about that? I don't even know what seats are vacant.
So the way I did it, and other people might not do it the same way, but I took the tasks that I hated the most.
Okay.
And I created job positions for those tasks first.
I like it.
This is when I was, I started my business by myself, grew organically, never acquired anybody, and hired one person at a time. And so I started with
which is the majority of folks listening to this, right?
Yes.
That's kind of the deal.
So for me, the things I hate the most are like the mundane admin tasks. So I created a job position for that, and the way I created that job position was writing down all of my day-to-day tasks that I didn't like, that involve, updating records and paperwork.
Yep, almost doing like a diary, these are the things I do. Don't like this. All right, this is going to be on that.
Yes.
Yep. Now, interesting. Did you find that most of the tasks you didn't like were the same kind of profile type, personality type?
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
Okay. So all the admin-related tasks
are all like what, C's, high C?
High C, yeah.
Yeah, and you're I'm guessing a high I.
I'm a ID.
ID. Or DI. Are you DI or ID?
I switch on and off,
depending on whom and the situation.
Correct.
All right. All right. So if you're not understanding what we're talking about personality profile. DISC, DISC, is the personality type. If you're not familiar, I highly recommend. There's lots of personality types out there, so that's not the only one. But for me, I've been using it for 20 years. It's easy to understand, and it's enough to get the job done. Mm-hmm. As you get more mature as a company and you have a leadership team, you might want to use Myers-Briggs or other
Culture Index
avenues.
Is another
Culture Index, something like that. But for hiring, I found that DISC works really well.
Yeah, I agree. It's super simple to understand, super simple to use, and it's very effective, right. When it comes to hiring.
Yeah, so DISC will tell you also like how you communicate with other people in that are not the same as you. So if you meet somebody right away and you like them right away, you have that instant, like, I like you, most likely you're the same DISC profile, right? If somebody like, I'm not really crazy about this person right away, it's most likely that they're the opposite side of the DISC, right? Yeah. So you have to know what your DISC is. So you have to know, how to communicate. And then more importantly, though, you have to know what the job's DISC is. And I think a lot of people miss that. Right. So how do you determine what the job's DISC is? Like, do you just determine like, okay, based on these details or these bullet points of the job description? So you have to get super detailed about your job description. And then you put in like what the personality profile type is for that.
But like you said, it becomes super clear what kind of personality would be good to do that job. Right. Yeah. But to take the guesswork out of it for your audience is like, there's a couple of positions in a property management business that's very common. So you have the admin assistant, somebody that needs to update records, do your leases, things like that. They have to be very detail oriented. Mm-hmm. So I would always say the C type. But then if they're also interacting with your tenants, you want them to also have some S, which is the S's are very diplomatic, customer service oriented people.
Yep.
So there's that. That's a great combination. And then going back to knowing yourself, like knowing your own personality type is also very important.
You also know by your personality type what jobs you're not good at.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So because I'm a DI, I know I needed CS.
Right.
So it's funny because my company ended up, like, most of my staff members were CS.
That makes sense because you're going to have most of the job roles inside of property management are going to be some type of C and an S, right?
Like maintenance coordinator, they have to be detail
Maintenance
oriented.
coordinator, resident relations, tenant, move-in specialist, move-out specialist, right? Accounting is going to be high C,
High
right?
C.
Yep. Yeah, because you don't want too many high D's in the organization.
1D.
One D, too many C's, right?
1D.
And
then
you're
you're a salesperson.
high I.
High I.
Right. Okay. So once you get, so obviously if you're not speaking disc, you're like, what the hell? Let me fast forward. But once it's not very difficult to learn. Once you understand that. By the way, I have 50 plus job descriptions on vpmsolutions.com, and every job description has a recommended disc underneath it with recommended KPIs. So if you go to vpmsolutions.com, you can see all these roles that Dee and I are talking about.
I wish you were around when I was doing all this myself, to be honest.
All right. So the job description also, when you write it down, I'm a big fan of it. It has to be super detailed because to me, that's the rules of the game.
Absolutely.
Right. So like, having one bullet point that says call residents or answer phone, and then all other duties assigned by management. That's super vague, and it's not going to help you get what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
Right.
I totally agree.
Okay. So now I have the job description. What's the next step? So I got my culture, I got my core values, I got the vision, I got the job description. Mm-hmm. All right. What's next?
Okay. So something I always do before I post the job ad is you got to know what's the competitive pay.
Yep.
Right.
All right. What are we going to pay them?
Yeah. What are you going to pay them? So before, there was data available or tools, I would just go around my NARPM friends. Be like, hey, what are you paying? What are you paying for your maintenance coordinator? What's the going rate? And it's always my belief to pay a little better than the market rate for the right person.
I like that idea. Yeah.
So I actually read.
Do you do that off the cuff, or do you do it after 90 days and you give them like a bump? Like
I give them a bump.
You give them a bump.
So you have to dangle like a carrot.
So you hire them at market rate, and in 90 days they get a bump above market rate.
Yeah. I'm also not averse to hiring somebody who does not have experience, because
I hated hiring people with experience.
Yeah.
I did, but tell me why.
Yeah.
I'll tell you mine when you tell me yours.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, because I know that I probably do things a little bit differently from everyone else.
Yep.
Even though a lot of the programs and vendors that I use are similar to others in the industry, my processes are different. Like they're mine, and so I always found it like if someone came from another company, especially
in multifamily, they think it's apples to apples, and it's not.
It's so hard to change their habit and their behavior.
Old dog, new tricks.
Yes, and then the inexperienced people are also a little bit more motivated and passionate because they're new, right? And they're excited by this new opportunity.
And they're only learning the way you teach them.
Exactly, and they're more willing to learn.
They don't have a case of the I knows.
Yeah.
Right? The two worst words in the English language, I know. Exactly. Right? Because then when you say that, your brain shuts off and you're not learning anymore. So 100% agree. Not a big fan. I have clients all the time. They're like, I need somebody with 5 years experience. I'm like, why? Do you not know how to do your job? Like, if you're a property manager and you sat in all the seats, you know how to do it. You train them, you teach them. You're literally looking for somebody just to abdicate. You're looking to abdicate instead of delegate. What it is, take over, right? So I'm not a big fan. Too many times I've hired somebody with experience that didn't work out, and I hired the right person, core values, put them in the right seat, disc profile, gave them the rules of the game, gave them training, and they prospered.
Training is so big. So one more thing I do before I hire somebody.
So anyway, you said back in the day you had to ask your NARPM friends. How do you go find it now? How do you know what to pay people now?
Well, there's data out there, right? Companies like yours, I know you have data, right? right? There's like
Right.
national average.
So instead of asking all the people, you just call me now.
Oh, well, ChatGPT.
ChatGPT. Yeah.
But I don't know how accurate that is. I don't know where they.
It's still hard, especially stateside people. It's still pretty hard to find like a maintenance coordinator stateside. What do you pay them, right? I think a lot of people are starting to still throwing darts, and it's also hard on the VA side of things. But as I collect data, you just reach out to me, and I'm like, oh, this is the average on the platform. This is the average per country. This is the average per, So we're gathering that data, so it makes things a little bit easier.
That's amazing. Again, where were you when I was doing this? But I read a book recently, and I thought it was pretty clever. Is when you hire, you let the applicant tell you how much they think they're worth.
I love that idea.
Yes, and if they're a great qualified candidate, you give them what they think they're worth. And then
a lot of times it's less than what you were going to pay them.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
But when you do that, it shows them that you believe in them. And believe it or not, psychologically, it works to your benefit because they're going to live up to that worth.
Yep. I'm going to give a shout out to my partner, Ross. He just did this last week with all of the new salespeople we hired. What do you want to make? And then we kind of back revved it so that we can get them what they want to make based on not just salary, but also some bonus stuff is in there because obviously it's in sales. Yeah. But I love that idea.
Yeah. And you know what? And if they say a number that's a little too high for you, you can say, I will give you that. But before I give you that, you have to do this training, do
right.
this, do
prove
this.
Yourself. And then
achieve these metrics, then you're going to get that pay.
Yep. All right. So now you've put your ad out there and you're getting some applications. Is there anything that you look for or do before you interview? Because you don't want to waste your time interviewing like 6,000 people, right? So are there any kind of, like I call it red tape, that you have people do to see if they're going to follow through? So what do you do?
So obviously you look for grammar, like spelling mistakes in their resume, right?
Okay. Even for your VAs that it's second, third language?
It depends on what they're applying for. Like if their job requires them to...
Requires detail?
Yeah. If it requires that they communicate with your tenants or maybe sometimes your owners, you want to make sure that their communication comes across as intelligent. Because guess what? The most intelligent people, if they misspell, like I know this person... a friend of mine who is so smart, but she has a spelling problem. I don't know what it is. She just can't spell. And everyone writes her off as being dumb.
Right.
But in fact, she's a very smart person. So it's very, very important to me that they have,
Well, the fact that they can't throw through word check, right? Spell check.
That, yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, if it's your resume,
Technology.
it's not just a letter to an editor or a letter to whatever. It's yeah. Okay. So I get that. So that's the first thing you're looking at. Do you look at like, let's talk remote side. On the remote side, I guess do you send them an English test or they have to give you a video because you want to make sure that they can.
If they had a video, we would ask for it. If they didn't, we would schedule a phone call with them.
Really? Mm-hmm. I would recommend you just have them send you a video first because this phone call is what? It's an interview.
I agree. It would be a waste.
I don't want to waste their time either.
Yeah. Now, for sure, I think it's becoming more and more common to have videos already attached to their resume, right? Especially if they're remote.
What about what about locally? Like, so if you're going to hire somebody, in the U.S., like in Atlanta, come to the office. Obviously, you don't want to interview 25 people. What are some of the things that you have them do prior? Do you have, obviously disc test might be one, yeah?
We scrub through their resume. If everything on their resume looks like they have the right skills, maybe some experience, right, background, it's almost funny, like if you look at a resume, you look at a person's prior work history. Even if they've never worked in property management, you could guess what their personality is.
Yeah, if they happen every 6 months,
that too. Yeah,
right. That's a red flag.
Yeah, mm-hmm. and someone who's if you're hiring a admin assistant and they love office work, then maybe that's the right person. So then the next thing we do is we send them the DISC profile test. Okay. Like, hey, we liked your resume, but
there's gonna be a percentage of people that don't fill it out.
Yeah, it's an automatic. Like they weed themselves out for that.
Yep.
And then we look at, how prompt they are at getting the test back to us, how responsive they are to our email communication. And all of that is an indication of how this person will be, right, when they work for you.
Sure. Especially if you're looking for C's, right? I's,
yeah,
maybe they're a little chaotic. Right?
There's a test that I do where like we'll have them do the DISC profile test, and then we won't say anything to see how they follow up. So I had one lady, we were hiring for an HOA manager at that time, and in HOA management, it's all about follow up, right? You got to follow up with the vendors, you got to follow up with the homeowners. And she was the right candidate, but I just purposely waited to get back to her. And then she followed up relentlessly. Hi, it's me again. I know that it's been 2 days since you've had my test. Can you please let me know an answer? Like, she did that every single day. And
right
I
person.
appreciated that.
Yep. So the right person then.
Yeah. Very relentless.
All right. So now on the interview, do you have a format that you use? I won't get into interview questions for time, but do you have a format that you use?
So because we do a lot of screening, and the DISC profile test, by the time and then we also do a phone interview before they actually sit in front of me. So by the time they sit down, we know that we want this person to work for us. So really the interview is just like the last step. And we spend most of the interview telling them about who we are, like what going
core
over,
values, vision,
exactly,
mission.
and just see if the light in their eyes come on. Like, do they have this great smile on their face? Are they like just sitting at the edge of their seat, anxious to work for you? Like, I want that person.
It's funny. I did the same thing. I used to do group interviews back in the day. I don't do them anymore. And I'd have 5, 6, 8 people, and I'd do this. The first part of the interview, it was a 4-hour interview, and the first part of the interview was just us talking about ourselves. And we would say, we're going to take a break. If anybody wants to leave, you can leave. And I've had 1 or 2 people decide to get up and leave. And I was okay with that because I don't want to waste my time or their time. Yeah. And then the second part of the interview, we interview the candidates. It's interesting what people say when there's other candidates around. That was interesting. My business coach had us do that. But so do you do the same thing? Do you offer them to like, hey, this is us? All right. Do you want to move on?
You can see in the body language if they're excited or not.
Okay.
Right. And that's one of the things you can get from somebody in person than over
hard to do on video or over the phone. Okay.
Yeah. But I really just look for that. I want someone to say, so the key is hiring someone who has talent versus someone who's just looking for
a job,
a paycheck. Yeah. There's a huge difference. I've never hired someone who is just motivated by money. Through this method, like people who come and work for me, they really want to make a difference, right? They really they have a desire to do a good job. It's not
salespeople too, or do you want your salespeople motivated by money?
That's a little bit different.
Okay.
Yeah, the salesperson has to be motivated by numbers and money.
Yep, that's what I thought. All right. So I don't want to get too much into it again. So now you hire them. Now, all right. What do you do next? Like, you have your onboarding, like you have your, hey, we onboard you, but like, what was your training like? High level, what was your training like?
I learned this the hard way, but I started doing it a little bit later in business, right? Is before I hired anyone, I made sure that the training was there before someone sat in a seat. Okay. Because in the past, I would hire someone for a position and then I would just train them on the spot, like as we went.
Monkey see, monkey do type stuff, right? Yeah.
And that didn't work. So having, you talk about process automation and all of that. If you already have that in place, it's going to make your training so much easier because you sit somebody down, like for example, if all of your processes are in Lead Simple, it helps reduce human error and it helps to make the training easy because it literally tells them step by step what comes next, what do you have to do next, and it gives them all the forms, tools, right, that they need for that step. So if I were to start over and do my business all over, I would have all of my processes in.
And that's like utopia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
all right, let's be honest. So what happens in reality
Yeah.
is that you need to hire somebody. You're so busy that you say, you know what, I'm not going to hire somebody until I have the training, until I have this systems manual created. You never get around to it. You never hire the person. So what I tell people is like, look, if you have the job description, you know the job description, hire them, and then do the monkey see, monkey do, where you're training them, which makes life a little bit more difficult for you short term, but then let them build the manual.
Yeah.
And now for the next person, you have it.
So good.
Right? So
did do that too.
don't be reluctant to hire somebody because you don't have the training.
Yeah.
If you have the training, even better.
Yeah. So if you don't have the process automation built in, which like you said, it's utopia, right? The process is I tell you, right? I show you how to do, then we do together, then you do, I watch, and then you do on your own. So
and then you own the process, and you can manipulate and modify the process. I tell everybody that works for me, once you own the process, you own it. I own the policy. You don't change policy, but you can change process. And if you change a process and something gets messed up, I don't care because you took ownership. Like I'm going to tell you why it broke, and we're going to go revert back. But I don't get mad because I'm like, man. Matter of fact, I'm like happy. I'm like, man, that's somebody that owns that process. And what's cool is if you listen to this and you're kind of portfolio based and somebody's working and you have to hire them to do like 3 jobs, right? Well, I only have 50 doors, so they have to do lease renewals and maintenance tickets and turns and tenant. They have to do everything, right? It gets easier as you get bigger and these jobs become more siloed. Knowing exactly what they do, creating the KPIs for them, and them owning the process, it gets easier. It's hard for somebody to own a process when they own 7 processes and they have 56 KPIs. Like it just doesn't work. So in this case, bigger actually is easier. And I've heard that like 10x is easier than 2x. I'm like, no, that doesn't sound right. It sounds like it's 10 times harder than 2, right? So I like the training thing. How do you keep your people? Like how do you just keep them so they stay long term? What are some of the things that you guys did at Skyline?
Oh man, culture, right? You talk about company culture, like what even is that? I think for Skyline, it was, so you have some words that you associate your culture with. For us, it was support and collaboration. What that means, and clarify. Like, so if those are the only 3 words we allow in the company for our actions and our words. So like, if you did something wrong, Pete, and I'm like, why did Pete do that? Like, instead of getting angry at you and blaming you for messing up a job, I'm going to come to you and say, hey, Pete, I noticed this happened. Can you explain what happened? That's clarifying.
Right. Okay.
So respect.
So stop
right?
from don't ask the why questions and put people in a corner and back there.
Always seek for clarification instead of blaming and accusing. Like that's the basic respect, right? So you have to give employees respect. Yep. If you respect them, they're going to respect you. And they're also going to carry that respect to your clients and your tenants. We did not allow any other type of language, like kind of words to be used. And then outside of that, you can't, like one of our values was have fun. So I made sure that there was enough fun that we do every single day, every single week, every single month and quarter. Food, for me, having good food was important to me. So I actually put that. She's
really digging it on me because she knows I'm on a diet right now as we're recording this. So she's like really dangling that food in front of me. Like you have cookies and stuff that Pete can't eat. Yeah, that's not fun for some of your people. Just saying, the ones that are on a diet, that's not fun.
But but food is actually something I talk about in the interview process. And when they hear that, like their eyes light up, like you're the right person for our company because you like food.
Oh, you're not money motivated. You're food motivated.
Yeah, if you don't like food.
Sounds like my dog.
It's true. And so I would buy the Factor meals.
Yep,
lunches.
Sure do. Yep.
I would stock the fridge with meals like that.
And they just go in, just pull whatever they want.
People come in the office and they
That's
know
a great
they got
idea.
lunch. And it didn't cost me but like $12 a meal, But it was just like little things like that.
Right.
We always had games in the office. Every Friday we would do a team lunch out. Every quarter we would do like a huge activity where we would spend
shut the office down half the day.
Half a day. We would go out and have fun. once a year, we would take a trip. Like, a couple of years we did a cabin up in the North Georgia mountains. We brought in a chef, catered food.
That is awesome.
Then we did fun stuff, and then we did half a day of training. We brought in like a business coach one time and did a motivational thing. So these are the things that we did, and people always look forward to something fun because every day in property management,
it's a grind.
It's not fun, but then they have something to look forward to.
I got it. Awesome. Well, we're going to hit a commercial break, and on the other side of the break, Dee Dee, we're going to put you on the lightning round.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. We'll be right back, everybody. Welcome back, everybody. Dee Dee's on the hot seat, the lightning round. Are you ready?
I don't know.
What is one of the stupidest things you did when you started your business?
Probably not learning how to do trust accounting correctly.
Commingling funds, anybody? What PM software did you use?
Buildium.
What was your current org structure?
So departmental.
Departmental?
Yeah. I had accounting, maintenance person, leasing, receptionist.
And then what did your portfolio managers do? Owner comms?
So we actually got rid of
like true departmental.
Yeah, we got rid of even like an individual property manager.
Okay, that's a whole other podcast discussion. Do you use virtual assistants?
Yes.
What is one piece of advice you'd give someone just starting out in PM business?
Join NARPM. And again, go to all the meetings, go to all the classes, go to the conferences.
I would say join NARPM and give back and sign up for something.
Get involved.
Get involved. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was Brian Birdie when he's the president. Get involved.
Get involved.
Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Yes. Are we not friends now?
Well, I don't know where you're staying tonight. What was your first job?
I worked for AT&T as a account manager for a small medium business.
That was your first job? You didn't work in school?
No.
Wow, lucky you. What is your ideal vacation?
It would be somewhere far, far away and doing a lot of hiking outdoor.
Mountains? You like the mountains?
Mm-hmm.
Mountains and waterfalls. Okay. What is one thing that most people don't know about you?
English wasn't my first language.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay. You still speak Chinese fluently?
I speak Chinese. I read, write a little bit.
Really?
Third grade level.
Okay. Hey, that's great. What is a Disney character that you most associate with?
Mulan.
Go with the stereotype there. Okay.
Kind of look like her. I mean.
Oh yeah, and that guy, the waiter looked like what was his name? What'd you say he looked like?
Oh
man,
Whitaker.
Forrest Whitaker. Yeah, the Spanish guy looked like Forrest Whitaker. All right.
I don't see skin color, Pete.
Minus the eyes, the hairline, the jawline. What do you prefer, cats or dogs?
Cats.
All right. You're out of the lightning round. All right, Dee Dee, if somebody heard this and they just say, hey, man, I need some help, would love to pick your brain, what's the best way they can get in touch with you?
So my email is dlee@purepm.co.
dlee@purepm.co. And if you are listening to this and not a NARPM member, if you would like to join, go to NARPM, NARPM.org, or you can call them at 800-782-3452. And if you want to be cool like Dee Dee and have virtual assistants and hire them, you can go to vpmsolutions.com. It's a free site where you can find over 33,000 profiles on the site. And we offer free help to help you recruit them, called the White Glove Service. You can reach out to me at pete@vpmsolutions.com. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.